Good afternoon. I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the April 19th, 2022 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. There are two characters from the Easter narrative about whom many people have curiosity. And while the Bible does not specifically tell us what became of them, I feel no qualms in telling you what early church history and tradition indicates might have happened to these two very important figures. And they are Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. Joseph of Arimathea, according to the Bible, was a very rich man who was, according to John and Matthew, was a disciple of Christ, although secretly out of fear of the Jews. So the Bible clearly indicates that he was a disciple of Christ. We know that it was he who went and begged for the body from Pilate and got it in a very public way, and then placed Jesus's body in his own tomb, a tomb meant for him. Nicodemus was a Pharisee and one of very high rank, a member of the Sanhedrin, one in whom Jesus gave a lot of respect when he called him the teacher of Israel. And the Jewish records of the day indicate that indeed there was a member of the Sanhedrin and was very well respected. Now, we know that Nicodemus also made a very public showing of his support of Christ. John indicates that he spoke up against the injustices in the Sanhedrin, and then he bonded with Joseph, and together they buried the body of Jesus and wrapped the body in spices. Now, unfortunately, for those of us with inquiring minds who want to know more, the scriptures do not tell us more about these two individuals. However, early church tradition does. And even what the Bible tells us is very interesting and maybe gives us a hint. The Eastern Orthodox Church believes and teaches that Joseph of Arimathea was a saint and was one of the disciples that was dispersed after the death of James, the leader of the Jerusalem church. And many legends, and not just legends, but also church documents, the writings of Eusebius as early as 250 A.D., the reflections of St. Clement, and others beginning in the 3rd century and moving all the way to the 7th century are pretty consistent that there was a group of early believers, including Joseph of Arimathea and Lazarus, Martha and Mary, and others who eventually set sail from Caesarea, which was a very well-known port, to Marseille. Yeah, that Marseille in France, which had become a real hub in that day for emigres from the Roman Empire to the colonies of Rome. And there are many legends in France and then in England that it was at that location in Marseille that they divided up and went and started preaching in the western part of the Roman Empire. As early as the 300 AD, we have church fathers writing that Britain was primarily Christianized by, guess who? Joseph of Arimathea. And that particularly he is very well known around the area of Glastonbury, which would eventually become very famous for the King Arthur legends. There was a tin mining camp there. Particularly, it flourished between the years of 50 and 80 AD, which would be perfect timing for Joseph to, if he did show up there. So it's fascinating that there is just so much information that does seem to link Joseph there. Now, fascinatingly, the Eastern Orthodox Church seems to believe that Joseph was actually related to Jesus. We cannot know this for certain, but there is a hint. The Talmud actually indicates that Joseph was the great uncle of Jesus, that he was the younger brother of Mary's father, and that would make them related. Now, the reason this is fascinating, we certainly can't be didactic. This is not scripture. We don't know, but it would make sense because under Roman and Jewish law, the only people that a body of a criminal would be released to would be a direct family member. Also, the only people that would normally be buried in your tomb would be someone who was a family member. So, these are things that maybe point to some kind of a familial relationship between Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea. Now, about Nicodemus, there is actually an apocryphal book known as the Gospel of Nicodemus. And according to it, Nicodemus was baptized by Peter and John and was later lost his status as part of the Sanhedrin, was banished from Jerusalem, and went off with many of the others and preached the gospel. Both of these gentlemen are recognized saints by the Roman Catholic Church. So we cannot be didactic. We do not know. The Bible tells us what we need to know, not always all the details we would like to know. But I think it is fascinating to, at times, at least consider what some of the church traditions are. And so I brought you the views of the Roman Catholic Church as well as the Eastern Orthodox. And you can decide what you think. Either way, we know that these two men were greatly touched by the ministry of Jesus Christ. And I like to believe, and I think there is some good grounds for believing, we as believers, we will meet them someday. I'd love to hear their stories out of their own mouths. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great night.